these brokers are using things like, Grok and ChatGPT and Claude to kind of hack around stuff on the weekends, and like giving them the tools, say, hey, you can go actually like use this TMS, and like the code's right there. You can open up, feed it into Grok and say, hey, add a page, and it'll do it for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to This Side Up, where we dig deep into the minds of founders, builders, and operators reshaping the future of logistics and supply chain. Today's guest is Garrett Allen, founder of LoadPartner, a startup that's simplifying the chaotic world of broker jobs. If you've ever worked in freight, you know how messy the back office can be, and Garrett saw it firsthand, and he's decided to build a better way. In this episode, we'll dive into the origin of LoadPartner, we'll talk about automation with a human touch, and why freight is just the beginning. If you're deep in the trenches of brokerage or just curious about building legacy industries, Garrett brings sharp insights and no BS perspectives on product, sales, what actually matters when building tools for operators. Let's get into it.
Been in freight for a little over 10 years. Started out early career at a brokerage called Integrity Express Logistics back in 2013. I was a really early hire there, like hire number 50. Their first kind of dedicated IT guy. I got brought on originally as a help desk guy to install PCs, and they were a small brokerage, seeing a lot of growth, kind of starting to scale. And they had this internal TMS system built that was, they're having a lot of problems with their tech stack. A small brokerage scaling quickly. It's really important, obviously, to be able to turn around requests quickly and have a really solid platform. And, kind of long story short, I pitched them on, hey, if you give me the resources, I think we can build a TMS to suit you guys and scale up. And they ended up giving me the resources, gave me a shot, built an engineering team, and built the TMS they run on today. Worked there for about 8 years. When I left, they had scaled to over 500 employees and making $1 billion a year on that TMS. So a lot of my early career was, seeing a small brokerage working in the trenches in IT for a brokerage like that, scaling them up, multiple locations, different modes of logistics, things of that nature, and building the software to support a brokerage like that. Then from there, I went and worked at Transfix for a few years as a senior engineering manager. So there I oversaw the payments team, so a lot of accounting, and then also their shipper operations team back when they had a brokerage that was really like the shipper side of the brokerage. And then also their integration, so everything like EDI, things like that. And obviously a lot of overlap with payments, that side of things. So worked there for a few years overseeing those teams, and then went and started LoadPartner back in 2023. And so I guess just on the LoadPartner side of things, we started out in 2023 launching our AI track and trace system. It was called Lasso. We launched it in, I guess it was, April of 24, I believe we launched that. So that was one of the first like AI voice and written communication systems. So it's really built to help track and trace, night dispatch, those kinds of teams with automating AI phone calls out to drivers, getting status updates, following up on like things like BOLs. And it worked across email, text, voice, everything. And it would kind of like aggregate it all into like outstanding requests and things of that nature. And we did that for a few months and kind of realized, towards the end of 2024, that a lot of that tech was a bit of a race to the bottom. A lot of VC money came in and started to lower the price that people were charging these brokerages, and we just couldn't keep up being kind of a bootstrapped company. We didn't go raise a bunch of VC money. That wasn't really what we wanted to do. So we looked at what we want to do next and seeing like, hey, this is sort of a race to the bottom. We don't think there's much of a future here, but this tech is really cool. Yeah. And being that my background and my co-founder, his name is Nick Sorrell. I didn't mention him, but he also was back at IL with me back in the day, their first CTO. So he started at LoadPartner with me. And so we looked at, what do we want to do? And we said, well, we've got a lot of experience building TMSs. And people have always asked for an open source TMS. Let's make it a reality. So spent the first half, kind of the end of 24 prepping and the beginning of 2025, actually building an open source TMS completely in the open, live streaming the development every single week. Showing people, pulling back the curtain and showing people how freight tech gets built and what it really looks like. And basically mid 2025, we actually launched the first open source TMS. It's out there today. You can go on GitHub and look at it. Go sign up for we have a startup plan for brokerages for like solo brokers that are small, and then we have really reasonable pricing. And we did that, which was awesome. It's been really cool launching that. It's kind of recent, only been a couple months since it's been live, but we're working with our partners on getting different integrations in place on that. And then on that journey, I also, I'm a serial builder. So I'm always building multiple things at any given time, pretty much. And we were building our integration to the FMCSA for carrier details, right? That's, how many times have I done that over my career? Too many.
Yeah,
and, and so I built it again. I was like, hey, you know what? What if I just throw a UI on this and put it out there for people to use it? And so I did. And people really liked it. It got a bunch of traction. I basically, spent a little time making the UI actually look nice, because a lot of those systems, they look like they were built like in the early 2000s, pretty dated. And so I called it SearchCarriers, SearchCarriers.com, and just kept adding to it, adding, hey, you know what, let's let so people can track, get emails when there's a new inspection for a company, and like, let's add some really fast search. So I spent a bunch of time building this really robust search engine that returns anything in under 500 milliseconds. So you can, search for like a company owner's name and it'll pull their company up instantly. And just keep adding on top of it just things that I think are useful. And basically over the last few months, that's really taken off and seen a lot of traction on that front. So been spending a lot of time there. I just recently announced a partnership with FreightWaves Playbook program to help owner ops with some of their processes. Going to be adding a way for them to like challenge inspections and things like that to kind of get back to the carrier side of things. And got a bunch of things cooking for the brokerage side for, things across vetting, onboarding, things of that nature. So yeah, it's kind of where we're at today.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that rundown. Obviously, you've been in freight tech for a long time, right? Building the broker TMS. Is that what IEL is?
Yeah, and they're cradle to grave specifically. So not quite the silo model you hear about.
Yeah. So I mean, really, really comprehensive end to end. And then you were at Transfix for a period of time, and I guess, coming out of, you mentioned a little bit like an open source TMS. We talked about this previously. Like, we see the need for that. We've been in, not in the space as long as you have, but 2018, I think, is when we first started doing stuff in logistics and transportation. And you don't see it a lot. Like, one, you don't see a lot of open source stuff that people can build. A lot of it is like proprietary, stuff that's ultimately using other web frameworks that are already out there, or you don't see particularly people building in the open, right? And that kind of caught my eye. I think we met, I don't know, maybe last fall at some point, and I was like, I think that's the guy from these live streams on LinkedIn, and I don't know where else you're live streaming, but I've seen him and tuned into him, so it's always good to watch as a builder. But what was I guess one, how has the traction been for the open source TMS at LoadPartner? And then also, like, are you seeing more people subscribing or kind of like forking it and just, rolling their own with kind of the foundation that you've built?
Yeah, it's been really interesting because, obviously, like you said, the industry's always been really closed door. So it's been, it's funny, you have to actually almost like convince brokerages or like customers why it makes sense to be open source, because they're so used to the closed door. But we've had a lot of good interest, especially from like small and mid-sized brokerages, where these brokers are using things like, Grok and ChatGPT and Claude to kind of hack around stuff on the weekends, and like giving them the tools, say, hey, you can go actually like use this TMS, and like the code's right there. You can open up, feed it into Grok and say, hey, add a page, and it'll do it for you. And that's been really cool to see. And, there's a lot of companies out there that are kind of like, they're not TMS providers, but they're providing services that are like adjacent to it. And they're like, yeah, we have people that are using Google Drive to Google Sheets to track loads and stuff, or using, HubSpot or something goofy, and we'd love to provide them a TMS. And it's like, well, we've got a TMS that's open source that, you can take that and like tweak it for your use case, and sort of like have a TMS you can now offer your customers without spending $1 million+ to build your own. So it's been really cool to see just like all the different use cases and ways people are able to leverage that tech now that it's out there and actually like open. Yeah.
And is SearchCarriers, you mentioned a little bit, is that open source?
So SearchCarriers isn't open source, but there is an API that you can sign up and use. So it's not open code, but I'm very open with basically everything you can do on the front end. There's an API that you can just go sign up for a Pro Plus plan and get straight access to it. So trying to really open the data side of that more. The code itself is like honestly not as valuable as like a TMS, because people aren't really trying to go into SearchCarriers and like make a custom version. They're I want the data to be clean and easy to find. Like, that's the use case. And so I'm trying to really focus on taking all that data. There's millions and millions of data points in there, and just making it really easy to like read and understand and access so that people can build on top of that API. And I can just kind of handle that dirty work.
Yeah. It's really aggregating some of that. You mentioned FMCSA. Is it bringing in other data from other sources as well, I'm assuming?
So yeah, there's a couple other data sources. The primary data source is the FMCSA, but we're also working with some other providers to bring in just different things around like VIN details, for example. So if you open up like SearchCarriers and you go to inspections, you can see all the detail around like equipment that's on there and actually click in and see like what's the make and model of that truck and like when it was manufactured and all that detail. And then also recently launched the image search on there, which I'm working on ways to basically aggregate that data back so people will be able to actually validate the truck as the truck that they think it's supposed to be, going back to, some of the vetting tooling that it's in the works right now. So, finding other ways of just other pieces of data that are useful to people. And again, just making it as easy as possible to like connect all the dots because there is a lot.
Yeah, I did see a lot of activity around that post, the announcement for the image search on Twitter or X specifically.
Yeah.
Like, what's your take on that? Some people love it. Some people are like, who are you trying to, exploit here? What's going on? Like, what's your take as the creator?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, the reason I created that is I built this tech last year, actually, for a software called Truck Verify that I haven't. We sort of soft launched it last year, probably going to relaunch it later this year, which is basically a system to let a shipper take a picture of a truck at pickup and verify that it's the right truck, and make sure the MC's right, the VIN number matches, all that. So just another step for vetting, fraud prevention, right? And I took that model that I had sitting around that was already trained to like read truck details and identify trucks. And I saw all these people using SearchCarriers and posting on X and saying like, oh, here's a truck with like the MC taped on the side. Like, who is this? Let's look them up and see what their inspection history is. And I said, hey, I'll just make this super easy. Like, you just literally take that picture in SearchCarriers. You don't have to type anything in. It'll just pull it right up. And so, these people were already taking the pictures and everything already. So I just figured, let's cut a step out and make it so they can actually start just jumping straight into it. And yeah, I know a lot of people on there talking about like, is it what's the privacy look like, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, like if you're on the highway, like it's a public place. Like people can take pictures of your truck. It is what it is. I'm definitely not advocating for people going around and, taking a picture of somebody's truck in front of their house or anything like that. And there's clear disclaimers on the app that that's not allowed. And on top of that, all the pictures that are taken right now are not shown publicly. Now, in the future, there will be a system to basically vet and approve those pictures to allow them to be shown against profiles. But for now, that's all completely behind the scenes. It's not shown because if I'm going to show those publicly and start surfacing that data, we're going to spend a lot of time making sure that, hey, these aren't pictures of people. It's not a picture of somebody's house, that they're privacy conscious. So, I think at the end of the day, we're really trying to fight the bad guys. And I think pictures in public places are totally within the realm of reason of trying to find the bad guys out there stealing freight. And you've got other companies out there already doing a lot of that stuff too. Like shout out to Genlogs. Like they do some really cool stuff over there. And, they have thousands and thousands, maybe millions, I'm not sure what their latest is, of pictures of trucks all day, every day across the United States. So,
Yeah, I met a couple of the folks from that team. One of the they're backed by one of the VCs here in Green Bay, Titletown Tech. They do a lot in logistics, supply chain, and so I met those guys at another conference. And I think mixed signals too in the industry. It's like, hey, we're trying to fight fraud. Like they're in the public. They found a lot of fraud, right? If you have a case or a claim and you say, hey, I need to find this, like, they're going to help you find it. I've seen so many case studies of them where it's like within an hour, like they've located the truck somewhere and it's, reclaimable. You can almost think of like SearchCarriers as like, I could see an evolution of it where it's like Genlogs at rest. Like you have your own camera pointed at your lot. It's just automatically verifying people that come in. And you know what I mean? Like you can rest assured that this is the right truck, whether that's a pickup or a drop off or what have you. Really cool.
Yeah, and to add to that too, one of the things I had mentioned on X too, I think it was last week, is that image model that's actually like doing all that work behind the scenes of SearchCarriers is going to be available through the API in the near future. So it's going to be something where if you do have a yard and you've got a camera and you're like, hey, we want to like automate pictures of trucks rolling in, that's going to be available through the SearchCarriers API within the next like month. So, that's stuff that we can just support you building that yourself, or if you want us to help build it, we can do that too. But really just trying to, again, right, going back to it's not open source, but we're trying to just like give you the tools and like the structured data to be able to build what you want to build as easy as possible.
Yeah, for sure. So is SearchCarriers part of LoadPartner, or is that separate?
So SearchCarriers is separate from LoadPartner. So LoadPartner is focused primarily on like the TMS side of things, our open source TMS, and then SearchCarriers is a separate company building for basically carrier vetting tools, carrier sourcing. I think the official title on the website is a carrier research and discovery tool, because that's most of what people have been using it for. That's what it's been optimized for.
For sure. Yeah, it's super interesting to see, because you're kind of the indie hacker of freight, right? Like, if you're familiar with like Peter Levels and all these people that are like really into like Micro-SaaS, you're starting to like build these small, very problem specific tools, which is cool to see. Is that your vision, or are you thinking like these roll up into something, into one platform? It's a suite of tools, I guess. How have you thought about building out this freight tech empire?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a little bit inspired by Peter Levels. Yeah, I mean, I love building stuff. When I see a problem, I love to just like get in there, hack around, and get something valuable into people's hands. Like even back at Integrity Express and Transfix, I was always the guy that was like, "Hey, we have a new project. It needs to go 0 to 1. Like Garrett's the guy that's going to lead that." And so like that's always been my strong suit, and so I really leaned into it. And so you're totally right. Like I mentioned that Truck Verify product, that's probably going to be another separate product. I've been back and forth on if that's going to be part of SearchCarriers or its own standalone thing. Yeah. Probably it's going to be its own standalone thing that's just like integrated or something. So, maybe they all roll up into something in the future. I've thought about that as well, building like a broker tools package or something where it's like, hey, you pay a flat fee and you get access to all these different tools that have been built. But I know one thing's for sure, which is that I'm going to keep building software that I see there's a problem space that we can assist with. Let's build something to help people out. That's just going to keep happening. So, just be on the lookout for more tools. It's going to keep going.
Today's episode of This Side Up is brought to you by Intermode, a software consultancy. Doesn't it feel like everyone in logistics is trying to figure out how to design and build great software just to stay competitive? But how do you make it happen if you don't have the right talent on your current team? Well, that's where Intermode comes in. We're the folks who help both startups and industry giants bring their tech dreams to life within logistics and supply chain. We don't just give you a strategy to follow. We execute with you by designing beautiful interfaces, building scalable design systems, and bringing Silicon Valley level engineers to build it right the first time. Whether you're a new player with a bold idea or an established company looking to modernize your systems, we've got your back. We've actually worked with some names you might recognize: Ford, Procter & Gamble, Trimble, Breakthrough, US Venture, and more, helping them tackle their biggest tech challenges. Here's the thing: no matter how big or small your project is, we're all about turning your vision into reality. Want to see what we can do for your business? Just head over to intermode.is. Intermode, making ship happen.
Yeah, so you mentioned like obviously Dart or Lasso is doing more in using AI for communication, things like that. Like what do you see obviously coming up in IEL and into Transfix and into some of those to like now you really understand the problem space of brokerages, of carriers. Like what role do you see AI playing now and into the future? And how are you thinking about, continuing to leverage that?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I mean, I think AI is definitely going to cut some of the craft out, especially of like high volume conversations, things that people are doing 100 times a day. AI is just going to get better and better. Now, obviously, we had RPA, robotic process automation, where we could already automate a lot of that. But with AI, the big thing and like what we launched LoadPartner with originally is like we can go to where the problem is now, and where you have emails with like all this gray area before of like how do you decipher what somebody's saying in an email and match that to a problem, and like who does that go to? And we can solve that now. So I think, moving forward, AI is going to continue to do really good at those like high volume tasks. I think as far as fully automating a brokerage and getting into that, hey, can we actually end to end automate this with AI and lower the margins by a bunch? My take is, honestly, we've seen this tried before. With there's a bunch of companies that have attempted to fully automate a brokerage and say, like, hey, we're just going to connect the shippers and the carriers, and like the carriers are going to be right here, the shippers will be right here. We'll just automate that conversation, that flow, the tracking, the alerts. AI was already not really needed there because they had full control of the platform, and we still saw a lot of problems. And so I do feel like we're kind of going into probably another bubble of people saying, like, hey, it's the end of brokerage as we know it. AI is going to come in and run freight now. We've already seen this once. Like this has already happened before. Are we going to like move the needle and get closer? Probably. I mean, definitely, I'd say. But I don't think we're really to the point of it being fully automated yet. There's just too much nuance. And at the end of the day, starting your own brokerage isn't that hard. So even when you get to that point of automating tons and tons of freight, you have to compete with that guy who's willing to pay $100 less to book a carrier to take that load from you. And that little brokerage, that solo guy, is going to beat out the AI 99% of the time. And I think that piece of it is just going to be why I don't foresee huge brokerages necessarily using AI to kind of like take over the industry, basically. So, I mean, I guess all that's to say, I do think AI is going to push the industry forward. It's going to be an improvement. We're going to see a lot less overhead on certain things. But the people that think it's going to be like we're on the path to full automation and the platforms are happening, I think we're just repeating the cycle a bit of trying to do better, trying to automate it, and we're going to come out the other side closer, but not there yet.
Yeah, when you see like that, like they just bought Convoy, right? Or completed, I don't know, started the purchase, completed. I don't know what that right verbiage is, but it's interesting to see the movement in the space between, what they were doing, obviously like tech first to, was this the third owner of Convoy? I don't know what.
I think so, yeah.
What the path is there, are they becoming a full brokerage? I don't know.
Yeah, I know people have been back and forth on that. I think Craig Fuller made a great post the other day about why that probably won't be a full brokerage. Like that was my initial reaction. I'll be completely honest. Like I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, like anybody using that's got to be freaking out, right? Because now they're competing. But they're not really doing that. I think they are going to they're going to be giving those tools to the brokers in the attempt of like, hey, we still just want to be the provider of data and tools for brokerages to do better, but we don't want to be a brokerage. And Craig Fuller made a great point of, hey, look at DAT's valuation and then look at like the top 100 brokerage valuations. Like DAT is worth a ton, even though their revenue is not anywhere in the ballpark of these brokerages, but yet that's worth more because of how they play, being like that provider of tools. Like, why would they like change that? Like they're doing great. They don't want to get into being a brokerage. And I think that's a great
lower
point.
Margin business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's like probably commonality too with like Uber Freight launching, broker access and some of their other stuff is like tooling to help them leverage the data and systems and, focus on the SaaS and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know it's interesting because there's just so many things going on right now in the space with, load boards are currently like the big frontier, I think. And so people are trying to do things to, just that marketplace side of things is really like heating up, I think, more than it's been in a few years. I think Highway just launched their was it the trusted freight exchange thing last week on Friday. Yeah. So, you've got like a load board through Highway now. And I think TruckStop just launched like their private load board now. So you can actually put like loads up that only your like approved through RMIS carriers can look at them. And so, I think it's good. It's all a step in the path of like fighting fraud, because fraud in the industry is just completely out of hand. It's a mess out there. And so I don't know that any of those are, I don't think any of those are like the silver bullet, but they're definitely going to move the needle to make things better, which is great to see.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you come at it, a little bit of improvement at each angle, you lower the risk quite a bit. What do you think or what recommendations do you have for folks after building a few tools with AI? I'm sure you were privy to some of it before when you were at Transfix, like not, full AI, but also at IEL. What advice do you have for brokerages and, just teams in tech starting to leverage AI into their operations? Like, how have you thought about utilizing it as a tool rather than, thinking it's going to be the holy grail and it's going to solve all the problems?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be really intentional about it. At the end of the day, like I said, it's really good at pulling like structured data out of unstructured like conversations and things of that nature, and figuring out like where are places that you couldn't automate before, that AI could basically take you a step closer to automating, if not automating. A lot of people, when you read about people that are like, oh, AI is not going to do it, it's not doing that great, blah, blah, blah. The use cases you usually see are like, yeah, we put AI in charge of like booking the load and also doing track and trace, and like nobody was there looking at it. We just expected the AI to flag it to us. And like those use cases where you're just like, hey, AI is just going to do all of it, and like hopefully it lets us know if something goes wrong. That's where you run into a lot of issues. I think the right approach is really looking at it and saying like, hey, somebody's still going to be in here reviewing it every day, but instead of having to look through like the full details of a load, like the AI is just going to have like a quick summary for them to look at, and like the risk factors, and like order the priority of things they're looking at, and like really used as a tool to assist a human to perform at a higher level. Maybe that's the key, is really about, helping a person perform their job better or more efficiently rather than completely just replacing them. I think that's definitely a big piece of it. So, yeah.
I mean, I think that's how you build trust in what it's doing as well, right? Like optimization solutions. And I was talking with Shaman from Optim about it, is like, if you just give someone a black box and an answer, like they don't know whether to trust it or not, right? Because humans are used to being logical and saying, well, I would have arrived at this. Why am I, being told this is the answer? What's the insight? What's the reason? What are some of those edges? And I feel like the true human in the loop, that you're used to with AI is like really the stepping stone to that. I mean, obviously there's a path here where, warehouses are robotic, drivers, trucks are driverless. Who knows if that's going to be reality with everything with Nikola and, Tesla trucks and all the stuff. But there is a future, far off be it, that could be automated, that systems could just give an answer. But I think we're a ways from that. And so, how do you make that experience more human and more understandable? I think that's a good insight.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think one of the other things too is like just being able to like control the environment a little bit too, right? So like when you look at things like the self-driving trucks, like for example, if you're just automating the trailer in the yard and like moving the trailer around, things like that, you have a lot more control over the environment and like the whole scenario. So those are like a lot easier to automate. And I think that same stuff applies to processes you have internally at like a brokerage. Like what are scenarios where like everyone that touches this piece end to end is like an internal employee that you can control how they normally do things, versus like what's a scenario where like a customer might email in a request or a carrier might ask for something that you don't know what that possibly could be. Like those differences are going to be where if you just let AI go and you have a carrier emails in and asks for like a reschedule on a certain thing, like who knows how that AI is going to react, because you don't have the full definition. So The
one product that really impressed me last year, we went to, I think it was F3. Happy Robot gave a demo, like a live demo. I was like, I thought it was a lot farther off from any workflow, but like the way that they had trained and architected that to say like, oh, if somebody requests a lower price, I'm going to send this Slack message to this person who approves it and get back, and then have that feel like a seamless experience. Like if I got that call, I wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, maybe if I was doing it all the time, but I don't know. Are there other tools that you've seen in the space that you think are kind of pushing the envelope of what's possible with AI and like getting people more and more comfortable with this notion?
Yeah, I mean, that demo is a great example of like that human in loop like we're talking about, right? And like it being able to like reach out and like have that human, like I think that's fantastic. I mean, other tools in the space as far as like AI specific, I don't know. It feels like it's really diluted, I would say. There's a lot of people like coming out and like trying to offer new things that it's hard to know like what's real and what's not a little bit, I think, because of like the demos you see that are demos. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't really have any specific call outs, honestly. I think we're sort of in like that. We went through like the intro phase where everybody's like leaps and bounds, right? Like the F3 demos, you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I think we plateaued a little bit waiting for that next sort of breakthrough. I don't know what that's going to be, honestly. I think having the platforms in place where people like that are starting to try to control the whole thing, that might open some doors. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a tool, right? It depends how you use it. It's the difference between, somebody having a sharp knife and someone being a, 5-star Michelin chef, right? Like they're probably using the same knife, but the outcome's different, right? So it's like, how do you leverage AI and use it in a way? And I think a lot of it is just the nuance of, the problem you're solving, understanding the edge cases, being able to feed it the right data and context that we've talked about. Without that, like, it's just another feature. It gives me a capability. It doesn't mean it's more beneficial or not.
Yeah, I think a lot of the tools that I like that I've seen are ones that they have a lot of that like no code kind of built in, where you're seeing like some of the brokerages like Ally Logistics, they're a great one, where you see everybody over there is trying to like build these different workflows. You see Dan Mansham posting all the time about the people on their team building entire workflows themselves that aren't like coders necessarily, but they just have these tools with AI baked in where they can point it where they need it to and start automating workflows without it being some big custom build. I think that's kind of the future of giving, just like the LoadPartner TMS, right? Giving tools to people that, hey, you want to go build that thing, you're the person with that problem. Like, we want you to be able to go build that solution because you're going to know how to solve it the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Zapier for work, right? Like, and I don't necessarily like Zapier's like, step-based approach, but that workflow software so you can give someone the tools to go ahead and, I mean, even now they're getting really good with like, trying to think of the example. Paragon is another one that's like an aggregator where you can like describe a problem or describe a workflow and it'll create the first version for you. I mean, if you can do that with your own business data, like now those tools really start to become valuable.
Yeah, totally. I definitely agree. And it's going to be cool to see. I mean, like I said, I think we're going to have a new breakthrough soon. I think like, it just feels like something's coming. We're like, we've plateaued for like 6 months or so, I feel like now. So the AI voice and the text are getting so good. Like you said, like you can barely even tell on a good AI voice call. It's like, you wouldn't even know. And so like, where do we go from there? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Garrett, for being on the show. I think to kind of wrap us up, where can people stay in touch with you and find out more about what you're building at LoadPartner and SearchCarriers and all the other Micro-SaaSes that may be coming down the pike?
Yeah. So you can find me obviously on like LinkedIn, just Garrett Allen, and then also on X at Garrett_makes. You can visit garrettmakes.com. I have a website up with some of the links to different projects. And then if you need TMS, go to loadpartner.io. If you're trying to find carriers, go to searchcarriers.com. And that's where you can find me.
Thanks for joining us on This Side Up. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help others find us. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out. And if you want to be a guest, let's connect. Until next time, keep your shipments safe, your logistics smooth, and your curiosity on the move.